So say, like for me, say you're a gym brand, you need to work out. So we're going to do 1 post a week on the gym wear. We're going to do 1 post a week on workouts. We're going to do 1 post a week on post-workout foods, or what I've had in a day, because that's your inside scoop. That's your personality, because you're showing what you've eaten in a day. You don't have to do that. It's not really anything to do with business, but people are getting the inside scoop and the personality. And then within that, you're showing your gym wear, you're showing your gym supplements, whatever it is, and people are going, so where did you get those leggings from? Where did you get those supplements from? And it's about organically adding your products into it.
So I like to call my unlimited content matrix, and essentially you break your business down into 4 pillars, right? You're welcome. Before I even start, you break your business down into 4 pillars. You say, okay, let's say for example, it's Crunches by Susie. She has really likes, fashion, right? She really likes hair, and there's another 2. So you break down hair and fashion, and you get their keywords. So you say, okay, fashion, we have models, we have material, we have this, that, and the other. And then for each of those keywords, you'd break that down into the who, what, when, where, how, and why.
What's sustainable happens quickly. Nothing. Like very few of you can show me an example of something that is sustainable, that is built quickly. I look at a plant. You look at a tree. Look, the biggest tree in the forest here. How long has it been there for? Thousands of years. It's not coincidence. You look at buildings. How long did they build a building? How long does it stay standing for?
Yeah.
Look at a baby. If a baby is born too soon, it's at risk of dying. Everything in life. There's not one thing in life here that can happen quickly and is sustainable. So when I tell you the post here for the next 6 months here, that's me using the laws of life and nature and what we see around us to understand here that nothing in life that is built quickly is sustainable.
I love the psychology of it. And I think sometimes with digital marketing, we forget that it's the same thing. It's just using different platforms, and the speed in which the digital platforms allow us to market to our audience compared to traditional offline is just incomparable. It's just crazy fast. And also the accessibility of how many people we can reach. And so it can be quite overwhelming when we think about the bigger picture of digital marketing, but really when it comes down to it, it's about the psychology that we've always known. And that goes right back to, hey, I've got some of these carrots. I've noticed that you haven't got any carrots. What about these? Should we swap some carrots for some of your potatoes? So it's about the psychology of somebody wanting or needing something and then somebody else being able to provide.
We call it edutainment. So it's education and entertainment. And don't be scared by the entertainment word, because entertainment is broad. Anyone can find anything interesting. It doesn't need to be humorous or anything like that. Teach us about this, and you can do that with a hook. So one tip for video content is you need to capture someone's attention in the first 3 to 5 seconds. You need a hook, and that hook it needs to draw in that person. So on TikTok, you can write a cover title on your video. If your service is beneficial in some way, a hook on that cover title could be, this is what really saves me time when I'm ... That's a hook, because now I want to know what saves you time. So this is where services can really play up to, how is this beneficial for you? Why should you be parting money? How can this change my routine in the best way possible? So that is everything that they need to be pushing.
Good morning, everyone. We've not gone live on TikTok yet, so let's go live on TikTok. Let's wait to get a few eyeballs onto the webinar before I introduce our special guest today to talk all things AI. So let me know when you've gone live on TikTok. Gone live on TikTok. Okay. Let's make sure that everything's up and ready. These are the joys of a live broadcast. Good morning, everyone. good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending where you're watching from. We know that quite a lot of people also watch our webinars later on in the day. I don't know why. You should be watching it now. But thank you for joining us on another episode of UKBF Talks, the webinars where I speak to business experts about specific areas of business that are going to help us develop in our business. Whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's getting money, whether it's knowing how to go viral, like the webinar that I did last week. We bring you the gems and the key takeaways to help you accelerate in your business. And today's particular webinar is all about AI. Oh my gosh, Jeremiah, can you bring me Stormzy? I wanted to make a direct reference to this. How can I do a webinar without my friend in the shot? It's all about him today to make sure that they're not taking over the world. All right, now bring him closer. Bring him closer. Yeah, just bring him here. All right, so today's webinar, let's get him on brand, let's get him on shot. So today's webinar, Today's webinar is all about AI, artificial intelligence. Now, there's been a real sensational boom of AI tools over the last couple of years. And a lot of people seem to be panicking about getting left behind. Are AI tools and AI in general going to take my job? Are they going to replace me? How am I even going to stay up to date with this ever moving thing that's just come out? But one thing that I want to tell everybody is that AI has actually been around for a very, very long time, right? If you're somebody that probably uses Grammarly on your internet or in your browsers, Grammarly is AI. If you're somebody that uses email and the email gives you suggestions, that email is using AI to predict what you're going to be saying. So AI has been involved in our lives for quite a while. But in today's conversation, we're going to be finding out how best to utilize and optimize AI to make what we're doing in our brands and our businesses more efficient, right? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce today's guest, Mr. Ray Newman, into the conversation. And I'm hoping that he's going to bring the gems that we need to really make AI our friend and not our enemy. So without further ado, how are you doing today, Ray?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I hope I'm going to live up to that introduction in terms of gems and takeaways. I've got loads of stuff buzzing around in my head that I'm looking forward to sharing. So hopefully I will.
Well, I like to always give people a bit of a pre-warm up of what they're going to be expecting. But before I dive into my questions, I want to encourage everybody watching and listening to actually get your questions into the chat, get your questions into today's episode, and I'll make sure to ask Ray whilst we've got him here. And if you're watching later on, still get your questions in, still get your comments in, and we will do our best to get those answered. So, Ray, before I get started, who the heck are you and why should we actually care about anything that you say today?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, there's lots of people floating around talking about AI. And I suppose my credentials are, I'm a designer working for a firm called Spark, which is part of a global consultancy called BJSS. I want to say I'm a designer. I love graphic designers and visual designers, but not that kind of designer. I work on teams that go into businesses and help them solve problems. So it's about designing products and services and finding ways to innovate and solve their customers' problems so they can make more money, essentially. And BJSS, as you said in the introduction there, BJSS has been involved in AI for a lot longer than AI has been in the news. So our AI experts have been thinking about ways to use AI in practice to make businesses more efficient and more profitable for something like, for more than a decade, really, when probably for most of us, AI was something we read about in tech journals, but didn't actually have any way to play with ourselves, or at least, as you said, it was in applications, but we didn't know we were using AI. So now with the sort of the rise of generative AI, which has got everyone really excited, BJSS is in a place where we're saying, yeah, we know about this stuff. We've been doing this for a long time. And people like me and some of my colleagues are able to say, and here's how you use it in practice. so that people aren't just being dazzled by, I guess, PR pitches and exciting toys. They're actually thinking about what's the real problem we're trying to solve, and how does AI help us solve that problem, rather than just what's cool and fun, which is where I think people do get a bit distracted.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Just wanted to start on to. Okay, so what is AI in the year 2023? What is AI in the year 2023? And the reason why I'm asking that question is because, as I said in the intro, we've had AI in some degrees and some levels through things like Grammarly, through email assistants. But in 2023, what are some of the things that AI is doing to help shape the way businesses can be run right now in 2023?
Yeah, so I mean, I think probably a key point to make is that when people talk about AI in 2023, they often mean generative AI, and then that most people who don't have their heads in the technical side of things, that's what they're talking about. So this is what's grabbed the headlines and got everyone excited. It's things like ChatGPT and Midjourney, which are able to very rapidly mimic human creativity without tons of training data. And the way that people are able to use those in 2023 in their daily work, I would say the biggest and most important thing is taking care of what people sometimes call like busy work. So that stuff that keeps you tied to your desk from 9 till whenever in the evening, but actually doesn't feel like it's really the stuff you're there to do or that you're excited about. So what we used to call kind of paperwork, although there's not often very much paper involved. So it's that stuff that's like number crunching, dealing with bureaucracy, turning out repetitive tasks, all that sort of stuff is where AI at the moment really excels. And I think there's also something around having ideas and innovating. So I know that bigger companies, some of the clients we work with are already doing things like, I'll talk about it a bit later probably, but something called futures thinking, where you spend some time trying to think not just like what's happening next year and the year after, but you try and look further ahead, like 10 years into the future, what's going on with our sector or with the industry. And AI, I think, is really good at helping people who maybe find those leaps of imagination more difficult. AI can kind of be a bit of an ideas partner for them. So if you ask something like ChatGPT, where do you think the construction sector will be in 10 years time? Give me a pessimistic assessment, a neutral assessment, and a positive assessment that can really help you start to get your head into where the opportunities might be, and where the threats and the risks might be, so you can start sort of preparing your business to deal with the future that might be coming down the line. And I would say that one of the things at the moment is that bigger businesses probably are getting more out of AI than smaller ones, because they can do things like train it on their own data. They've got the resources to say, let's build our own instance of an artificial and generative AI tool and train it on everything that's in our shared drive, rather than relying on what's in what Google or OpenAI have trained the AI on. So that gives them a bit of an advantage. And I think that's one of the areas that we'll probably talk about this later in terms of trends. I think that's going to become more accessible to smaller businesses in future. Is probably relatively easy being able to say, I would like to train this AI on my content rather than just generic content, because that's when you'll really start to see it being really useful for specific applications, I think.
So just on what you just said in regards to larger corporates probably taking advantage or maximizing the ability of how to use AI, maybe to forecast things in the future. How can smaller businesses close the gap so that they can also leverage AI to plan ahead? What sort of strategies should smaller businesses be adopting? Should startups be adopting to optimize AI in this way?
So, well, first, one thing I will say is that on the one hand, those bigger corporates have the resources and maybe the technical support to do some of that stuff in a more kind of impressive way in some ways, but they're also, and this has always been the story with small versus big business, they're a bit crippled by being bureaucratic, having lots of decision makers in the line. So smaller businesses are arguably positioned to move a bit more quickly and nimbly when it comes to AI, and just use the tools that are available, rather than waiting 2 years for the custom AI to be finished being built and trained. So it's it's not quite as cut and dried as the big businesses have all the advantage. I would say one thing to bear in mind as well is that we are in an interesting point in the hype cycle, which is that obviously at the start of this year, all anyone was talking about was AI. And it doesn't take very long, does it, when a new tool comes along for people to pop up on social media saying, for an investment of £1,000, I made £50,000. This one AI tool will change the way you run your business and quadruple your profits and so on. And you do have to get quite good at navigating some of that hype and saying, is this something that's actually going to change my business, or am I being dazzled or being sold snake oil? So yeah, one thing I would say is a way of taking advantage of the current situation is making sure that you are not falling for hype. And as a designer, a thing I keep saying to people is the worst thing you can do is find a tool and then say, what problem can we solve with this tool? It's much better to say, here's a problem we need to solve. Which tool is the right tool to solve it? And increasing that might be AI. But I've had situations where people have said to me, we'd love to do something with AI. We think AI could solve this problem. And actually the solution to that problem is a much more traditional, old-fashioned approach. You'd be wasting a lot of time and energy using AI, and you wouldn't get as good results. But I have been taking notes on where I've seen smaller businesses in particular using AI to their advantages. And I remember really early on when ChatGPT came out, within about 2 weeks of it being publicly available, there was a bloke who had programmed a custom tool for his dad who ran a building firm that would take the raw notes his dad wrote off a call with a client, turn it into a quote, format it, and send it as a beautifully formatted, properly written quote for his clients. And for his dad, who wasn't particularly confident at writing, didn't like paperwork, that was an absolute game changer. And I think it's going to be things like that where we say, what are our processes and how do we use an AI to remove a blockage, a human blockage in the process, or a stumbling block where perhaps a person might screw this up or delay it, and the AI can actually help us just get over that bit of friction or that bump. I think there's going to be lots of stuff like that.
Yeah. So AI, just to summarize an aspect of what you just said there, AI is great for streamlining processes and removing the human element of error, essentially. Let me go to my first question. So my first question is, how can AI-driven solutions transform the way someone's business operates and make it more efficient and profitable?
So I think one really big thing, and this is a conversation I have all the time with people at work who are sort of AI ethicists and interested in the governance of AI, what are the ethics? So one of the problems of AI is that it has all sorts of biases and prejudices essentially built in based on the data it's been trained on. At the same time, one of its benefits is it can be more objective than you can about your own business or about your own, the problem you're trying to solve. So I think one really key thing that people could be using AI for is to help them be more objective about their business. And this seems to me especially important if you are a sole trader or running a very small business and you maybe don't have loads of people to bounce ideas off. You might have a mentor or a coach or a group of people you trust. You might be a member of UK business forums and feel comfortable discussing things there with other people. But using something like, and I'm going to talk about ChatGPT a lot because that's the tool that I personally find most useful. I know it's not new and it's not necessarily it's amazing that we would say this, but it doesn't seem that radical now after we've all been playing with it for a year. But it's the most useful and the most adaptable tool. But you could, for example, use ChatGPT to stress test business ideas or plans, and to be that critical voice that challenges you. And also, AI is really good at spotting connections that you wouldn't and correlations that a human might not, because we find it quite hard, I think, as a species to make those unintuitive leaps between in the data we're looking at. So, and again, this is going to be a theme I'm going to come back to. Lots of the tools we already use have AI built in. So Microsoft Excel has had something for absolutely ages called Analyze Data, which just literally with a click of a button can look, if you've got a body of well-formatted business data, so, your sales ledgers or whatever, it can look at that and it will just say, here's a correlation between these two bits of the data that you probably haven't noticed. And it will come up with a list of often, 10 to 15 correlations in the data that you might not have noticed. And that can often spark really interesting ideas. So, we noticed that we sell twice as much 7-Up when we've got a promotion on pizza, which you might not have noticed that correlation. And it can even come up with things that are more out there than that can really spark completely new tracks your business might want to be on, And it can make you that little bit more adaptable and able to improvise in difficult situations, difficult times like we're in now.
No, that's good. That's good. So on ChatGPT, we know that it's not nothing new. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry knows and has probably heard about ChatGPT to some degree. The basic level of ChatGPT is some people may use it for social media copy or to help them get a subject title for their emails. In which way should businesses be actually utilizing, or can businesses utilize the heck out of ChatGPT? What should we be telling ChatGPT to do to get the best out of it for our businesses?
So I think there's a really interesting point here, which is I've been talking to people for like a year about ChatGPT, and the number of people that say the same thing to me, smart people who are senior business leaders, oh, I tried it and it was rubbish. And what they did was they went onto it once, they asked it to write them an email or whatever it might have been, and they weren't that happy with the first result that came out. They closed it and they've never opened it since. And the bit that everyone misses is the chat component. So unlike previous writing AIs, you can say to ChatGPT, that's rubbish, I don't like it, it's too boring, or it's too pretentious, it's too wordy. So the very first thing is that people need to get into that habit of having a dialogue with it, respond to it and train it. And it might be that the first version isn't what you want, but the fourth or fifth version starts to get closer to what you're after. And I know that sounds obvious, but loads of people are just not doing that dialogue. They think it's press a button, get the magic output, job done. So yeah, make sure that you're actually in conversation with ChatGPT and training it to give you what you want. And there's taking time over your prompts as well. So I'm a editorial sort of content person by training and by experience. And I find it quite easy to write prompts for ChatGPT to work out what I want to get and then write a prompt that will deliver that. But that's harder for other people, maybe if they haven't got that background in writing and editorial. But yeah, it's one of those things, rubbish in, rubbish out. If you take some time to craft a prompt that will deliver writing in your tone of voice, for example. So if you're writing content for your website or content for marketing, spend some time to say to ChatGPT, here is how I write, or this is the persona I want you to have. Give it maybe some examples of your writing and say, what are the key aspects of the key style points in this writing? Get to extract those, then say, now use those points to write me copy for a monthly newsletter on the following subject. You'll get much better results than if you just let it spit out what it naturally spits out without those additional prompts. And that's because it's been trained on generic corporate content. So what it will naturally produce, unless you guide it in the right direction, is more generic corporate content. It won't help you stand out or find a voice at all. So yeah, writing better prompts is a really important point, I think, and a really important skill to learn. It's not technical, it's programming in the English language. Just treat it. I've sometimes said to people, just imagine you are working with a very keen, enthusiastic intern who's on the other end of an email chain and just needs quite a lot of guidance. They're keen, they're trying to help, but they need you to tell them what's what. The difference is with ChatGPT, you don't have to be polite to it. You can be as rude as you like. It's got no feelings.
To be fair, the founder of UK Business Forums, Richard, he always says this thing about if you've watched iRobot, you know how the robots, they come in, they take over basically. And he said that we might need to be friends with these things, or we need to be polite or nice to these things or these beings. And ever since then, when I speak to or communicate with ChatGPT, I literally say, can you please, can you please, can you please? It's not great, but thank you, that sort of thing. Because I'm thinking, if I'm nice to it now, it might remember me and it might be nice to my child or my grandchild. So that's just the way I'm thinking. But on that, you mentioned that most businesses and even some very intelligent business owners are not optimizing ChatGPT the way it can be used. And they're not really having a conversation via the chat system. Can you give us any examples of like success stories or testimonials where people have used ChatGPT or other AI tools that has been extremely profitable for their business? What are the things that they did? What are the sorts of prompts that they used? And what were the successes that they got from it?
Sure. So, I mean, one example is just from our own company, from Spark and BJSS, is that we've been using it. I hope this isn't breaking a trade secret, but we've been using it in some of our pitching to clients. And what it enables us to do is tailor and customize pitches much more quickly. And it also means we can do that without putting dedicated editorial staff on the job. So a blockage in the past has been for us that we have a team of content people who are operating at expert level, but we want those people billed out to clients. We don't want them sitting around working on the business. We want them to be sort of out there, selling our services. So that's been a blockage in the past. Can we get a content person to work on this pitch? And what that team has been able to do with a couple of really smart people involved who've been working out a process, a replicable process that can be used every single time, is crafting prompts that say, here is our house style. Here is how we express ourselves. We use these words. We don't use those words. We use this tone, not that tone. And then a body of kind of standard template content. You can say, here is our standard pitch deck. Apply what you know here from this client data and this information we've given you about the job we're pitching for, and then give us a pitch deck which combines what we know about the client with how we normally pitch. And you've essentially got your first draft of a pitch deck with like a couple of clicks, instead of having to spend ages of someone digesting that information. And it's operating at a more sophisticated level than just saying, here's an Excel spreadsheet with the business sector and the name of the contact, because that's how you get those terrible spammy connection requests on LinkedIn where someone has said, hi, Newman, I see that you are working in design agency, because they haven't actually, there's no human-like thought going into crafting the message. Whereas ChatGPT with the right prompts can really take you that extra step along and give you those at least first draft, very human-like pieces of copy and content that you need to start engaging people and show that you understand their business or engaged with them on a sort of personal, customized level.
Yeah. On that, someone just put a question in the chat. Can AI potentially lead to people no longer thinking independently and becoming complacent, inactive, and basically our brains being frazzled because we're depending on this intern, as you said, who every time we feed it information, it's getting more wiser, it's getting smarter. Are we going to fall into a trap of just not using our brains at all and just depending on this? What are your views on it? What are the setbacks of AI? And obviously through this question as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, so yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we talk about a lot. I've got a colleague, Laura Musgrave, who was, I think, voted one of the most brilliant women in AI in 2022, and she is a brilliant woman who knows about AI. And her particular area of expertise is ethics and governance. And her job has been really to, when people have been getting very excited about AI, she's also very excited about AI, but to say, but hold on a minute, what are the risks? What are the things we need to just, we don't want to rush into this head first. And people who are doing that are already having trouble where they're relying on it too much. For example, to prepare legal papers, there was a case of somebody who prepared legal papers and ChatGPT invented some legal cases that it cited. He took those to court and his case got thrown out of court because he'd invented material essentially through ChatGPT. So that kind of thing. And yeah, the risk of handing over all of our busy work to AI, I personally think, doing some of that repetitive number crunching and paperwork, that's how I get my head into a problem sometimes. So I share that concern that if we entirely rely on ChatGPT or similar applications to do the donkey work for us at the start of a project, we skip too far down the line and we haven't really spent the time immersing ourselves and giving ourselves time to think about the problem. So I agree that is a risk. On the flip side, I know of people who have never in their life written a blog post or written a newsletter, and they've suddenly been empowered to do that because ChatGPT is helping them think things through. So they're not even using it to write the newsletter. They are going back and forth with ChatGPT, helping it digest ideas, arguing with it, disagreeing with it. And that conversation is helping them express something that's in their head more clearly than they've ever been able to do before in their lives. So I think there's also the potential for it to help some of us do more independent thinking and become more active in our thought processes, because we've got something there, a tool there that can challenge us and essentially, when ChatGPT gets things wrong, it really inspires us to get it right. We can look at it and go, well, that's rubbish, but now I know what it should say. So yeah, I think it's a swings and roundabouts that, it has its ups and downs. We do have to really watch out for that point where we're relying on it too much, but at the same time, I think there's definitely upsides to the way we work with it.
Yeah. Other than ChatGPT, are there other applications or tools, AI-wise, that business owners should be considering, whether they're starting up, whether it's for creative purposes, whether it's for financial elements of their business, whether it's accounting or whatever? Are there any other tools that we should be really, really honing in on and getting ourselves, dipping our toes into?
I'm going to be a bit boring on this because I've looked at endless lists that have been coming out. You've seen them as well on social media. 52 AI apps that will change your life and so on. I've looked through so many of those lists, and a lot of them, the stuff that's listed, it does one job, removing backgrounds, swapping faces, whatever it might be. And I'm like, I don't know how useful this will be to most people. And I think, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it's boring, but where the most value is to be found is the AI that's built into the tools we're already using or that we already know. So I've been keeping a bit of an eye on things like Miro and Canva. I don't know if you know, Miro's a online whiteboarding tool, which is great for sort of planning and workshops and working together, collaborating with other people. Canva is used by all marketing people everywhere to create graphics and presentations and videos and so on for marketing and social media. And those have both got AI tools built in now. So that's stuff that's launched in the last 6 months where there is now an AI function built in. And I really think if you're already paying for something or already using a tool, read the manual. And when they send you an email saying this now has an AI function built in, find an hour to go and play with it, because it might be just the thing you need to save you some time or make your business more efficient. And yeah, Microsoft Excel, the least exciting, least sexy tool on the planet. But my partner is an Excel trainer and an accountant, and she's an expert in Excel. And she's been saying for years that analyze data, which I mentioned earlier, and Power Query, which is built into newer versions of Excel. These are incredibly powerful tools that are right there in the box if you just press the button and read the manual and go and watch some instructional videos. Yeah. And people of it, and ChatGPT is coming to Excel and it's coming to Microsoft Word. Google's own writing AI is coming to Google Docs. So these are going to just be built into the tools we're already using, and it's a matter of saying, okay, let's experiment with it and see if maybe that's the thing I need. And you mentioned graphics, and I say the best of the graphics tools is Midjourney. I'm personally a bit sick of seeing Midjourney images everywhere. I don't find them, I don't know how useful they are for businesses. Businesses tend to want a cleaner, plainer style of graphics, and Midjourney is great if you want someone riding a dragon over a castle or whatever, or it can do anything. But I think you're probably better off keeping it simple in a lot of business contexts. And I don't know. I'm not sure. Midjourney is the best one, but I'm not sure it's that useful for most people.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Canva, so I'm sure a lot of people will be familiar with Canva. Even I think the AI functionality is a paid feature on there. So, but a lot of people will be familiar with Canva. My next question is, how does AI enable a better decision-making process for business owners, especially when it comes to assisting them to adapt to changing market conditions?
So yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier, but that it's really about using it to help frame your own thinking and give you scenarios that you can work with is one thing. Especially if you're working on your own or with a minimal team. So it's a way of helping you digest information and turn that into sort of actionable summaries or forecasts. So I know one thing a lot of people use ChatGPT for, and similar language models, is that they use it to crunch information into ways that they can process. So you get these huge white papers that people publish, or these huge reports, everything you need to know about the state of the publishing industry in 2024, and nobody's got time to read it. And even if they're well written, people struggle to extract the key messages. And one of AI's real strengths, generative AI, is really good at, if you paste that information in and say, please write this as if for a 9-year-old and summarize it in 100 words, it's really good at that. as long as what you're after is just sort of that overview. So it really enables you to crunch through lots of insight and information much more quickly and make the most of your time. A bit like if you had a really efficient private secretary or personal assistant, and you could say, I want you to go home, go over the weekend, read all these papers, and then boil down the key points for me. You can get AI to do that for you. So that's one really important application, I think. And as I said earlier, asking it for a range of possibilities, getting it to consider the options for you, and say a really good thing I've seen people use it for is to say, look at these terms and conditions. What here is non-standard? And you could also give it, anything you've put together in terms of business plans. What you could say, what in this business plan might cause a bank manager or someone who's giving me a loan, what might make them pause or give them concern? Get the AI to role play as the person who's like potentially going to invest in your business. Is that another way you can use it?
Yeah, no, I do like that. I do like that. In what ways can AI-driven automation help individuals save time and reduce the burden of routine tasks in their day-to-day running of their business?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one, I think, because that point I made earlier about where you've got a human blockage in the business is where I would always start thinking about, is AI the answer? So I think increasingly, even in larger organizations, you find that lots of the support roles have disappeared. So there are not people minuting meetings and writing up papers. You have to do that yourself. Or there are not people who are around to look after internal comms. Lots of places have got rid of their internal comms teams. And in smaller businesses, of course, you often don't have those roles. They're a bit of a luxury that you can't afford. So anytime that you say, I would love to do this, but I just haven't got the time or resource to do it, you could hire a freelancer, you could hire an agency, but it might be increasingly that you look at AI and say, the AI is the bit that can get me over that hump. And one example I keep thinking of, 20 years ago when my first job working for a big mobile phone retailer, at one point we hired a bloke whose job it was to sit for, I think it was 6 months or something, entering product descriptions for every single phone and accessory that we sold. And he had to sit and do that manually. And by the end of 6 months, he was going absolutely crazy. He couldn't handle it anymore. And that's the kind of thing I think now you would simply plug in your product database, that, whatever format that might be in, and you would say, using the data in these 6 columns, write a product description. I want you to write a snappy headline that summarizes the product in 8 words. And I want you to write a slightly longer description, which explains the benefits and features and why someone might want to buy it. And you've done a job that might take someone 6 months to work through, and it can probably be done in, however long it takes your AI to run through that query, so let's say half an hour or something. So I think it's work like that, which is not fun for anyone to do, difficult to find someone who can do it at the price maybe you want to pay, and where not getting it done is a blockage to you selling more, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like the way you gave a practical element there with the person that you said that you used to work with, and how basically 6 months worth of work can be done in a matter of minutes if you prompt it right. Now, coming on to prompting, what do we need to do to become better prompters? How do we refine the prompting process to know that, like, rather than asking AI 5 things or speaking to it in 5 different occasions, we get it right the first time? How do we refine that process for ourselves as business owners?
This is again a process thing, is to say, when you get a prompt right, save it somewhere, start building your own prompt library, because you know what works for you. And that could just be a Google Doc or a Word document, but like, that worked, I'm keeping that, I'm going to use that again. Another thing to do is, one thing we're not short of at the minute is AI gurus on LinkedIn or elsewhere sharing their prompts, and some of them are really good, and especially where they show you the process that led them to the prompt. Where they just say, here's a prompt, I'm less interested than when they've actually run through the thought process that got them there. And it's through that kind of network that I've picked up on the latest trend in prompts for ChatGPT is something called the chain of density, which was came out of MIT and Salesforce. I think it was published last week. And that is again, it starts to look quite complicated, but it's basically a process where you say to ChatGPT, summarize this news article into a short piece. Now rewrite that news article 5 times, and each time add a new detail from the original article to make it more dense with information. And it's quite, you know, there's a scientific academic paper behind this, but the results are really astonishing. I mean, you can play with it yourself and you can see how much better it is at getting to a point where you go, that looks almost like a human wrote it. So ChatGPT just needs nannying a little bit sometimes through those difficult thought processes, or as I said earlier, it will just give you generic crap. So yeah, I think it's about thinking about the science behind the prompt a little bit, keeping a library of prompts that you know work, and collecting prompts from other people. You know, it's a community exercise at the moment. We're all learning how it works. So, you know, pick up stuff you've seen that works for other people and add that to your library of useful prompts.
Yeah. Can AI assist individuals in providing more personalized and responsive customer experiences, which potentially may lead to an increase in growth and ultimately customer loyalty?
I think this is probably the most obvious way to use AI almost. And I think it's sort of been built into various tools over the years, but generative AI has made it easier again. I will say that the problem we've got at the moment is a lot of people, again, are doing that surface level use of AI. So they think they're personalizing things, but they're actually making things feel less human and customized. I'm getting messages. I've got people on LinkedIn who comment on my posts who are obviously using AI to generate the comments, and they all read the same, and they're really weirdly written, and if anything, it makes me feel less connected to them than if they just posted, you know, good share, well done. So I think there's a risk of people getting overexcited about what AI can do and not using it with enough subtlety. Having said that, I think if you can get into the habit of keeping good quality data, so if you're using a CRM or you've just got a nice spreadsheet of customer data, and you can make that integrate with something like ChatGPT to write your customer emails or pitches, or, you know, those messages you might want to send to leads, just to sort of say, hey, it's been a few months since we spoke. That's the kind of thing that, I mean, Salesforce and other CRM manufacturers are building into their tools now. But it will mean that you can send stuff to people that is more personalized, references the specific circumstances that they're operating under, shows that you are aware of them. And you can do all of that again at the click of a button rather than having to manually work your way through that process. It's sort of a posh mail merge, essentially. But I think it does have, it's really probably pretty easy to implement and has enormous benefits. And it's no less insincere than someone writing you an email because Salesforce has prompted them to do it, and they look at it and go, I hope you are well and that you are still enjoying riding horses or whatever. It's like, you know, it's no less personal than that. So yeah, I think that's the most obvious way. And then there's something around, I was saying I collect examples of interesting ways people have used AI. And one is customer call center software that lets you customize the response you've written for different customers. So you can say, this customer doesn't want to be too chatty, so press the button that says more serious. This customer likes things to be very informal, press the button that says less formal. This customer's a pain, press the button that says cut them off, you know. So there's ways of like taking the same piece of content and customizing it for different customer preferences. And you can do all of that again in your CRM. I would say if you flag a customer as, you know, friendly, cheerful, or formal and serious, and you can write one message and then branch it off and have it rewritten for those two different audiences really easily.
So based on, for example, a customer's interaction with you, and depending on their tone of voice, the AI will be able to send them a response based on the prompt that you've give it. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, and even again, a step down the line, you might be able to say, look at the last message they sent you, and then write a response that matches its tone. So you could even save it could even be more intuitive than that. If they seem friendly and upbeat, just match their tone. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So from your experience, and being in the industry and being around people who are pioneering in the industry, what sort of trends should business owners be aware of and take on board to have a very positive effect on the way in which we run our businesses or the way in which we want to be seen by potential customers? What trends should we be really, really focusing on? Again, this one's going to sound boring, but get your data in order, because the next thing that's coming down the line is that you will be able to feed your own data into AI models much more easily. And that's when you're really going to start to see advantages in terms of that personalization and customization, and it really matching your organization's areas of interest. So we're already doing this with clients in areas like sort of healthcare, where if you want to create an AI that can help people diagnose what's wrong with them, or like a chatbot kind of model, it's much better if that's been trained on 10 years of clinical data rather than it's being trained on whatever the large language model was trained on to start with. And the better your data is, the more ordered and structured and tidy your data is, the easier it will be to train an AI using your own data. And I don't think that's very far away for even small businesses, that you'll be able to say, I would like to, I'd like to point Microsoft's own version of ChatGPT built into Microsoft tools at my SharePoint or my shared drive, and I'd like it to read all these documents, crunch all of that information, and then I would like it to be able to continue to write, whatever it is I've been doing up till this day in my style, with reference to previous information from my business, specific to my sector, using the language we use in my sector. I'd say that's the biggest one. Is just personalization of large language models that businesses will be able to afford, and not just big businesses, is coming down the line, I think.
On that, for people that are starting up, and for people that may not have the resources and the budget to play and do what the big boys are doing with AI, how can someone with a small business and limited resources start incorporating AI into their processes, into their operations, to achieve like real benefits?
So the lowest investment you can make in AI that will level you up significantly is paying for a subscription to ChatGPT rather than using the free version. It's about 20 quid a month or something like that, and that gives you access to GPT-4, which is the latest model. It's a few months old now, and I don't think another one is imminent, but it's night and day in terms of the quality of the outputs you get from it and the sophistication that it operates at. So paying 20 quid a month to get ChatGPT-4, I would say, is an immediate level up. And then you can start to do some quite sophisticated stuff where you essentially use GPT-4 to create your own tools. So one thing you see quite a lot of people do is they will essentially program GPT-4 and say, you are quote writer 2024. Your job is to write quotes for customers based on raw data from a client call. The quote should be 150 words long. It should be bullet pointed, and so on and so forth. You specify what you want it to do, and it will say, great, I'm QuoteBot 2024. Give me the raw data, and you just dumping. Then you can just, after that, call up that chat anytime you like from the archive of old chats, dump in the latest information from your most recent client call, and it will output the report you need. So I think it's that kind of thing. It's creating tools using the latest version of GPT, and bookmarking those, as treating them as almost as applications in their own right, that each of those chats you've created and polished and honed is essentially an application you have written for your own use. You've programmed it using the English language.
Yeah, no, I really like that, because you're basically you're creating different personas for different tasks.
Yeah.
And based on, like you said, whatever output you're needing, whether it's for a very strategic report, whether it's for marketing purposes, whether it's for responding to customer queries or customer emails, each archived conversation is its own person, basically, which is very, very practical, very, very practical. Can this not be achieved using the free version of ChatGPT, or does it only have to be with the latest paid subscription?
You can get quite a lot of the way with 3.5, which is the version you can access for free, and it's certainly for more basic or sort of functional tasks, it's pretty good, especially businessy tasks, because what it's been trained on primarily is a bunch of business data. It's when you want to get more creative or interesting, or you've got an unusual tone of voice, that GPT-4 can just be a little bit better. And GPT-4 lets you paste more information into the box, and that really basic stuff like that makes it easier to use. But I would certainly say you could experiment with this approach with 3.5, and then maybe if you find you're hitting some limits with it, 20 quid a month, and say, right, I think I can see this working, I'm going to invest 20 quid a month, I think is maybe the way to go.
Yeah, well, especially if they give you a free trial for it, even better. Just before we go, Ray, what are your top 3 bits of advice that you would give to anyone to best optimize AI to get results for our brand and business? Top 3 takeaways.
Okay, so I would say 1, look at where you're spending time on repetitive tasks and think really hard about whether AI could take some of that work off your plate. Look at where the output of content is a blockage, and if you repeatedly find yourself saying, if only we could get somewhere, we could get somewhere with this, if only we could get this content produced, look at AI. That might be the tool you need. And look at where the quality of the content you're putting out to the world might be damaging your reputation. If you're not a great writer, you don't have, or a great designer, and you don't have those people on your team, and you don't want to or aren't able to pay for an agency or a freelancer to do that work for you, ChatGPT, Midjourney, and other tools that will generate, slide decks and so on, could be a tool that, if you put them in a step in your process, could just help you put the best foot forward and present yourself better than you currently do to the public. It won't replace professional designers and editors and writers and so on, but it will get you closer than the thing maybe you're just doing yourself on the back of an old napkin or whatever.
No, that's good. That's good. I really, really appreciate your time and the gems that you brought today, Ray. You did live up to the intro that I gave. If people wanted to get in contact with you to ask more questions, how can they do that?
Best place to find me is LinkedIn. I hang out there the whole time, and I love chatting to people. I'm always happy to sort of get messages from people or hear from them. And I don't hang out on the UK business forums anymore very much. When I used to be the editor there, so and I recently refired up my account. So you never know. Maybe if you message me there, I'll pick it up.
There we go. There we go. Well, I really, really appreciate your time for being here today, Ray. And for everyone that is watching right now and everyone that is listening right now, if you do have any questions, like Ray said, get it in the chat. Find him on LinkedIn, Ray Newman, and hit him up on UK business forums as well. He might even be there. Might drop you a cheeky one-liner, or it might be AI. You never know. Whilst we've got your attention as well, for everyone that's watching and listening, so we've actually got something launching quite soon from Smart Business. Smart Business is the best way to call it. UKBF and Smart Business are coming in tandem to launch something quite special, and we've got the opportunity for everybody watching and listening right here to get premium membership for free, 1 month trial of premium membership. And all we want you to do is to let us know when your business insurance is due. Business insurance is very, very important for all levels of businesses, whether you're a landlord, whether you need public liability insurance, you need to get insurance for your business. And Smart Business is going to be in line with Simply Business, providing quotes to get you the very quote that you need to run your business successfully, all right? So with a link in the chat right now, if you go ahead, let us know when your insurance is due. We will get you closer to the time. We're not going to spam you, not going to do any of that, but closer to the time, we will hit you up with a quote relevant to the business that you're running, very, very competitive. And the extra bonus and the added bonus is you get a premium membership on UKBF, which is worth over £100, but you get it for free for a month's trial. So it's a win-win. You get a free quote and you get a free membership for a month as well. So in the link in the chat, wherever you're watching, let us know when your insurance is due, and we're not going to spam you. Don't worry about that. So once again, I just want to say thank you to Ray. Thank you to everybody that's been watching, everybody that's been listening, everybody that will watch later on as well. We've got loads of great conversations and webinars coming up in the future. If you are not a member of UK Business Forums, a member of UKBF, head over to ukbf.co.uk. UKBF are a platform filled with people who are starting up in business, on the medium stages of their business journey, or they're absolutely smashing it. All these different people are within the UKBF platform, and we're there to support you in your business journey. and it's a free platform to join. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Get yourself involved. Get yourself involved in the conversations going on there. If you've got advice, if you've got value to add to someone's business, get over to UKBF. Get your voice heard. Let's be of support to somebody going through stuff that we may have gone through in our business journey, and let's see how we can be of value to somebody else. But once again, thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys soon.